I haven't done a wrap up in a while because I didn't do one in March. Well, actually I did do one in March, but the footage got all messed up, so I didn't end up posting one in March, and now we're in May, and I'm just going to combine the books I read in March and the books I read in April and just make one fun wrap-up video, especially because I had a really good reading month in March. I think I read like 10 books. In April, not so much. I think I only read like 6 or 5 books. So we're just going to combine them in this video and talk about all the books that I've read the past 2 months. Really quickly for some reading statistics. Firstly, in the month of March, I read 10 books. 4 of them were physical copies and 6 of them were audiobooks. For the genre breakdown, we had 4 mysteries and thrillers, 1 contemporary romance, 4 fantasy books, and 1 literary fiction. For April, I read 5 books, 2 of them physical copies and 3 of them audiobooks. For the genre breakdown, we had 2 thriller/mystery, 1 dark romance, and 1 literary fiction. Starting with March, the first book I finished in March. I don't know why I feel like it shouldn't say March twice in one sentence like that close together, but regardless. The first book that I did finish in March was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Like I said, this feels like years ago that I read this book, honestly, but I read it like right at the beginning of March, so that's probably why. I don't know, me and Riley Sager just don't get along, I guess, which is a bummer because they're so well loved and popular, and I feel like everyone likes their books except for me. It's not like I don't like his books, but just they take a route that I never truly feel satisfied with, I guess is the way I could explain that. And I obviously can't get too far into it without spoilers, but for this one, The Only One Left, I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I did like this one better than the House Across the Lake that I read first by them. I did not like that one at all. This one I don't know why I'm doing this like I'm holding the book, but The Only One Left I did enjoy more. It was definitely more of like a spooky haunted house vibe book. In this book, we're following Kit, who becomes the caretaker for Lenora Hope, who is the only surviving victim member of her family from this like mass murdering that took place years and years ago. And she's the sole survivor. She lives in this house where it took place, like this creepy house upon the hill, cliffside vibes, and she's also bedridden, and so Kit is her new caretaker, and you kind of slowly start to learn more about what took place however many years ago with the murders, because Kit becomes very curious and she finds out a way to communicate with Lenora so she can tell Kit the story of what took place. So you're slowly unraveling that, and then you're also kind of like in the present with Kit's history, like things about her and things that are currently taking place in the house. It's just very like spooky, haunted house vibes, but it's not too scary because I personally am a very big wimp when it comes to scary things. I don't read horror, I don't even watch scary movies, so I was concerned when the Ouija board came out in this book. But that's as scary as it got, and it really wasn't creepy to me. I did enjoy like the mystery of it and just like finding out more about Lenora and what happened so many years ago with the murders. However, I do think the ending was just so much at once. Like I feel like we were following so many different paths, and instead of just like choosing one and sticking down that and having like a plot twist or whatever, like we just had so much going on at the end that it was like getting lost and misconstrued to me, and I was just like, okay, I don't really follow much. I don't know, it was just a little bit of a complicated ending, I guess, so that just felt a little bit unsatisfying to me personally, but I did enjoy listening to it. I just don't think the endings of Riley Sager's books are for me. I don't know why. I don't know, take that with what you will. Then I read Quicksilver on my Kindle. This is actually in a reading vlog, so I'll put it up there if you're like more interested and curious about my opinions, reactions, all that. However, I will just quickly say how I was disappointed by this book and very underwhelmed, I guess. I did go into it with very high expectations just because it had been around on BookTok and people were very much hyping it up, and it became kind of like this big thing, which I know I shouldn't fall into. And like, you know, when you go into a book with high expectations, it's easier for them to crash and burn. And unfortunately, that is what happened to me with this book. I just didn't enjoy it really that much at all, honestly. I gave it a 2.5 stars. I honestly would have rated it less than that if it was just based on the beginning of the book, but the second half of the book did get a lot better, and I did love the side characters. I liked like the action and like everything that was going on with the plot. I just unfortunately did not like the romance at all, or the 2 main characters really, so that put a big, you know, what's the word? It just put a bad taste in my mouth, I guess, for the book. And the first 50%, like I said, was just so focused on these 2 characters and their romance and their conversations that I was getting the ick. I was getting secondhand embarrassment. I was uncomfortable. It just wasn't what I like to read in a romance. This book follows Saris, who lives in kind of like the poorer part of like the kingdom or whatever. I don't really know. Like the area where she lives, she is a little bit poor, and it's only her and her brother, so she is in charge of taking care of them. And in order for her to have like enough water to survive, she has to steal it, and she is a common thief. So you kind of like start off the book with like immediately her jumping into action and like thieving, and then she gets caught, and then something crazy happens, and all of a sudden she is in the Fae world, which she didn't even know existed. So that was very interesting. And then you kind of like realize what the Fae world is, what she's doing there, how she got there, and it kind of just develops from there. And like there's like a whole thing that they need her help with, and like she needs their help and vice versa, so they kind of like start to work together, and she sparks up a romance with someone, and it just is very much purely physical at the beginning, I would say, and their conversations are very attraction based. Like they talk to each other very sexually, I guess, and it's just not my kind of thing. I like when there's like a more of an emotional romance or just like intellectual, and they like have banter, but this like wasn't that for me. And Sarah's also bothered me because she complained a lot, and then all of a sudden like a flip was switched, and then I don't know, I just didn't enjoy the romance. But I did really like the side characters. I loved the plot, like I loved the action, especially like I said, second half of the book was a lot more fast-paced, interesting. I really enjoyed it, and it's a bummer because I didn't like the first 50%. It just like taints the whole book for me. I'm honestly not sure if I'll continue this series. Like I want to, and I want to know what happens, but I just don't think I can handle reading about the romance, and especially if it's in Saris's POV, I don't think I'll continue the series, but we'll see, I guess. I would still give it a try. If I were you, I would just lower my expectations to the absolute bottom floor, and maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. Then I listened to First Time Caller. This one honestly also feels like forever because I actually started it like around Valentine's Day, and then like softy enough it and then picked it back up. So it feels like forever ago. But this one, it was cute. I just don't think like typical contemporary romances are really my thing anymore. As you can see, I'm like reading them less and less. I just don't think they're my cup of tea. Although like once spring and summer comes, I do kind of want to read like this cute summer romances. So we'll see, I guess, after the summer if I still like them. But this one was very much a cute rom-com vibe, which it was cute. Count how many times I say cute, honestly. But it just was kind of like to me. Like it was very long as well, and I do think it was dragged out, and the guy main character Aiden just kind of bothered me. I really did like Lucy and her daughter. So basically Lucy's daughter like calls into this radio show because she wants to help her mom find love, and it's very cute, and that whole scene was super cute, and I loved like the scenes of like the family. So Lucy and Aiden, who is the radio host, like start talking, and then people like really start to get invested in Lucy and want to like follow her love journey, like the people listening to the radio show. And so they invite her to be a guest on the show, and then just takes off from there of like Lucy trying to find love and Aiden like helping her. And it was really cute. I love the radio show vibes, and if you listen to the audiobook, it has like cool little sound effects that like kind of coincide with the radio show vibe, and I thought that was nice. However, like I said, it was just too long, a little bit too cheesy for me. It was predictable, which of course these kind of books are. So I rated it 3 stars. It was cute, quick read. I'm gonna stop saying cute, oh my gosh. I would listen to it or read it around Valentine's Day if you want like that kind of sweet vibe, but just nothing like I feel like I'm going to constantly ever think about and like want to go back to. Then I listened to The Wedding People, which was an unexpected 5-star book for me. Like I said, unexpected. I just kind of went into it, like I've heard good things about it. My wedding's coming up this year. I just like, it's cute. Maybe I'll enjoy this book. However, I didn't expect to absolutely fall in love with it and rate it 5 stars and then have to go buy the physical copy, which I don't have with me right now, but I have it. It's such a fun experience when you just don't expect a book to change your life in a way or be a 5-star book, and I just feel like those books hold an even more special place in your heart just because it's like so unexpected in the best way possible, and that's what this book was. Phoebe shows up to this hotel, and everyone else that is there for a wedding, and she's the only one there that's not for the wedding, and the bride realizes that she's not there for the wedding, and she kind of like freaks out a little bit because she doesn't want anything obviously crazy or bad to happen on her wedding day. And then she freaks out more when Phoebe truth bombs to her what she plans on doing this weekend of her wedding at this hotel. And then they kind of form this like unexpected friendship because they both are kind of confiding in each other, not like using each other, but mostly just confiding in each other about their lives because they're complete strangers. They feel like a freedom with expressing any of their thoughts because they're probably never going to see each other again. And the bride feels like she can talk to Phoebe about like her family and stuff and things that are going on with the wedding because Phoebe isn't a part of it. And they just slowly become friends and intertwined in each other's lives, and they both help each other in like unexpected ways. And it's just like heartfelt, even though I will say look up the trigger warnings for this book because it does deal and talk about heavy topics. But the way that the humor is in this book, which is again like kind of unexpected for the topic and the material of it, there's like humor, there's like heartfelt moments, and I just really enjoyed reading about Phoebe and Claire, and I loved all of the characters, and I liked seeing all of where their stories went, and the ending was very satisfying and like wrapped it up in a way that I personally liked, and I was a little bit worried about it. So I really liked it. It just felt heartfelt and inspirational and meaningful to me. Then I read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I didn't read these like all back to back. I had like a few like audiobooks in between, but for the sake of this review, I'm just going to review them like I did read them back to back. Also, I did make a reading vlog for this one, so I'm just going to briefly discuss these really quickly so I don't overly share about them. First, Once Upon a Broken Heart, I rated this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It just didn't have like that 5-star feeling, and a lot of this book was like setting up for the trilogy and like setting up the world, setting up the characters and all of that stuff. So, but the end of this book was very, very good and like got me excited for the second book. This trilogy is based off of a character that you meet in the Caraval trilogy. If you haven't read that, I recommend reading the Caraval trilogy first, just because you do get like the backstory, the background on all the characters, the magic system and everything like that. Even like some of the characters do reappear in this trilogy, and the main guy character from this trilogy shows up in the Caraval trilogy, so you get like his backstory, which I think is important personally. So I'm glad that I read the Caraval trilogy first before jumping into this one. But you're following Evangeline, who is just the sweetest little cup of sugar you'll probably ever meet in your life. Like, she is a princess to me. And she finds herself kind of in this sticky situation where she believes her boyfriend is cursed. So she goes to the Prince of Hearts kind of like, I don't know, church to ask him for help. And she kind of just gets tangled up with the Prince of Hearts, and her life just kind of takes a turn that she never expected. And oh my gosh, so good. Like, just the fairy tale magical vibes of this trilogy as a whole is just so perfect. And like I said, the way this one ended got me so excited for the second book, The Ballad of Never After. This one was my favorite. I rated this one 5 stars. There's just so many good scenes between our two main characters in this book that had me giggling, kicking my feet, blushing, all the things. I was obsessed with it. And you just also get like more of a darker vibe in this book, but not too crazy or anything. And you meet a lot of fun characters, and it just has you like annoyed, it has you like gripping the pages, flipping the pages, trying to figure out what happens, but also makes you blushing and kicking your feet, like I said. This one, I just felt absolutely so many things. And I think the plot of this one was very interesting as well. And then lastly, A Curse for True Love, I rated 4 stars. This one just felt a little bit slow to me. This was probably the slowest out of all 3 of them. And I didn't really like one storyline in this book, and some things bothered me. But I did really enjoy the ending and how everything came together and wrapped up. And I honestly wish I could reread this trilogy for the first time again, read all of them like over and over again. And this trilogy is going to just hold a special place in my heart, and I'm going to reread it probably every year. I personally liked this trilogy better than the Caraval trilogy. I just liked the romance better. And this one just felt like a fun fairy tale, mystery involved fantasy. So if you like those kind of vibes, read this. Then I listened to Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Unfortunately, this one was a letdown for me. I only gave it 2 stars. Just like, I guess I should have looked up more of like the content in this one. It just felt a lot darker than anything else I've ever read by her. I really loved Gone Girl by her specifically, but this one, Sharp Objects, is dark, so I will warn you, please look up the trigger warnings. It deals with children, and I just really didn't enjoy really any part of it, to be honest. Really, it's interesting, but like the whole time you just feel this dark cloud, dark vibe hanging over the book basically, and I don't know, I just didn't feel connected to the characters. I just felt creeped out, weirded out. And then once the ending happened, I was even more just like, okay, like I need to move on and never think about it again. So I gave it 2 stars, and I was gonna like watch the movie. I think it's a movie on Hulu, but I don't think I'm gonna do that to myself. I just don't think this is for me. Like this type of thriller, like darker vibes are just not for me. And I honestly can't really remember much about what it's about. I just know like our main character is like a news reporter or some type of reporter, and she like goes back to her hometown to like start investigating or like figuring out like these murders that are taking place. And then she kind of like stumbles obviously back into her past, and the past like in the present just start you know. It just wasn't for me honestly, so don't have much to say about that one. Then I listened to Ward D, which I actually did enjoy. These types of thrillers by Frida McFadden I love. They're just like quick, easy, fast-paced, entertaining books, and they're never like too much, at least for me in my experience. So eventually I'm gonna read probably all of her books, but this month I read Ward D, and this one follows Amy, who is like a medical student, and she gets assigned to go to this psychiatric ward for 24 hours. It's like overnight, and she basically just kind of like shadows the people there. But while she's there, things kind of start going down. There's like weird things happening, weird red flags, weird vibes, and she actually meets someone in this psych ward who is connected to her past. So then things from her past start coming up, and you're trying to figure out like what is happening really, like the whole night, like things start being really weird. And it's very fast-paced, like I said, interesting. It takes place basically over a span of like the night, and I really did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. It was just quick, like nothing like too crazy. The ending did get me, I will say. Didn't expect that, but like also you do kind of expect just something. You just don't know like really exactly what to pinpoint because there's just so much going on. Nothing like too crazy. It's probably not one of my favorites by her. Like it won't like stick out in my mind, but I did enjoy it. Lastly, for March, I listened to Veronica Ruiz Breaks the Bank, which is a novella in the Finley Donovan series, which this book follows Veronica Vero, who is Finley Donovan's nanny, babysitter slash business partner. I was glad at first to get a book with Veronica's backstory. However, once I got through a little bit of it, I was bored, to be honest, and it just felt like everything we were learning we could basically infer from what we know from the first Finley Donovan book, and kind of like a little bit more also with like a romance with Veronica. Like you can read between the lines and like figure things out. So I just felt like the novella was a little bit unnecessary and a little bit boring. Like there's also a mystery, but like I said, just it didn't really matter to me much. I didn't care for it. And this book was like technically a prequel in a way, because it was events that took place before the first Finley Donovan book. So it just felt weird like going back in time and getting Veronica's backstory just to then go into the next book and like be way further in the future. I don't know. I just felt like I didn't learn anything like absolutely crazy from that audiobook. So I only ended up giving it 2 stars, but I do like the Finley Donovan series, and I'll talk about it a little bit more when I get into April and like when I read the most recent book in that series. Moving on to April, the first book I read was Scythe and Sparrow. This is the 3rd book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I'm glad to be done with it, to be honest. Unfortunately, like after Butcher and Blackbird, the rest of the books just steady slope downwards, honestly. They just weren't the same. They just didn't hit the same as Butcher and Blackbird, and I don't know why. Actually, I do. They just like, they weren't entertaining enough. Like Butcher and Blackbird had so much going on. I was always entertained, and the romance was like top tier in my opinion. Leather and Lark, I didn't like their romance at all, and the mystery was not good. But Scythe and Sparrow, I did like the romance. I did like the 2 main characters, Fionn and Rose. Rose is a circus girl. I don't know, she works in the circus. She does this like motorcycle stunt, and then she also does like tarot card readings. And she gets injured and has to basically quit the circus. So Fionn, who is our small town sweet little doctor, decides that he's going to take care of Rose and like let her stay in his house because she's on crutches and like she just needs some extra help. And so he lets her stay with him, and then they start forming this friendship and they start helping each other. It is very cute, very sweet, very wholesome, except Rose is a serial killer. That's not a spoiler, it's on the back of the book, and we know by now, if you've read like any of the books, that like there's always a serial killer. She's just honestly like the worst serial killer, and she's really like not a serial killer. I mean, I guess she is, but like I just feel like it's boring, honestly, and I just feel like what's the point, you know? And I just don't think there was like any crazy big mystery that I was like really hooked on. It was just kind of like But I just found like the plot and like the action lacking, so I did switch to the audiobook to finish it. But the epilogues are good. The epilogues are good, and I think it sets up for a potential spin-off series or maybe just some novellas or something, which I don't know if I'll read. I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh, I did read another Frida McFadden book in April. So I kind of read one about once a month, maybe twice a month, but in April I read The Coworker. I gave this one 3 stars. It was, you know, entertaining, quick, easy. Like I said, I'm not gonna say the same exact things over and over again about her books, but I always enjoy them. I just think they're fun. This one follows Natalie and Dawn, who both work together, and suddenly Dawn isn't coming into work. She's not picking up her phone, like something's being weird. So Natalie starts to kind of investigate why her coworker is not at work, and it's just very interesting. Dawn's character is very interesting to me, and I don't think it was ever explored in the way that I wanted it to be. So you kind of get like 2 different perspectives, POVs in this book. You get Natalie's, where she is trying to like figure out what happened to Dawn, and she's also kind of dealing with crazy things that are coming up in her love life. And then you get Dawn, where she's writing like emails, like so you're reading emails from her to one of her best friends, and you kind of like learn about what she's saying about the people in the office, what she's saying about her job, what she's saying about her life. And like you slowly start to realize like what you think is reality is not really reality, and you kind of be like, what is the truth, what is going on? It's just very like weird vibes. You never get like the full painted picture until the end. I was shook very many times throughout this book. I don't know why, but I didn't expect one of the main twists, and then once like we got that and we got a different plot, it was just crazy. Also, just the amount of times like turtles were in this book. Turtle was said. I feel like Frida likes to do that. She likes to give like her main characters like this very like quirky detail or like part of their personality to like really stand out, but then like we mention it so many times. Like in this one, Dawn is like obsessed with turtles, and it's mentioned once every chapter, to be honest. And I remember when I listened to The Crash, the word tuna was said a million times as well. So like those like little things I personally pick up on, and I'm just like, okay, that's a lot. It's a little bit cringy. But again, I don't know. The books are just quick and fast paced, and this one I rated 3 stars. So if you can get past a little bit of cringe, I think her books are fun. Then I listened to Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice, which is the 4th book in the Finley Donovan series. Honestly, I wasn't going to continue the series. I just felt like it was being really repetitive and just kind of boring. But I will say I'm so glad that I did, because this one is one of my favorite books out of the series. It was just so entertaining and interesting. The setting in this one I really enjoyed a lot. It takes place in Atlantic City, like with casinos and like all that kind of fun stuff. And I loved the setting, and I just loved the characters, and I liked the plot, and it just was so funny. Like this one felt like OG Finley Donovan funny vibes, where I was like literally laughing, and like the mystery was there, but like I don't know, I just feel like I care more about our characters at this point. Like I'm so invested in Vero and Finley that like the plot is there, but I'm just like interested in what they're doing every day. It's just so funny. I specifically remember like the opening chapter or 2, like the opening scene when they're like on their way to Atlantic City. Like that was just so funny to me. And you also get a little bit more of a romance between Vero and this other character. That's like a big thing in this book, is helping Vero, and I really liked that side of Vero, seeing that side of her, and just seeing Finley over and over again. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. Then for my only physical copy of April, I read Firefly Lane. I don't know what came over me, but I just like randomly had the urge to read this book and like read a Kristen Hanna book. I've heard so many good things about her books, and safe to say it's true. Her writing is so good. Like you just get lost in it. Like you would think that this book would just feel like forever, or just like be slow or something, but it's not. Like her writing, it just like totally sucks you in, and you're just like there. You feel so connected with these characters that you just like, you don't even want it to end. At least personally, I didn't want it to end, and I felt so connected to these characters, and these characters have a special place in my heart, and it's just so good, so good. So this one, you're following Kate and Telly, who meet at a very young age. I think they're in like high school or early middle school, and they become close friends like right off the bat, because Telly confides in Kate over something traumatic that happened to her, and they just become very close, and they live right across the street from each other, so they're hanging out and seeing each other all the time. And then as they get older, things start to change. Of course, you become different people, but they still remain friends. They just kind of start being at like crossroads a lot more with like career and family. They have very different goals and wants at that point, so you kind of watch them start leading these very conflicting lives while still being best friends, and it's just It's just girlhood in this book. It's like friendship, girl friendships, female friendships, hardships, and like what you go through throughout your life. You just watch them grow up basically, and it's so heartfelt. I just loved it. I loved how they both kind of struggled. Well, that sounds terrible, but I did like reading about how they struggled with different things, especially on the topic of love. It's so interesting how some people, all they want to do is give love, show their love, have children, be a mother, be motherly. That's how like they show their love. And other people just desperately want to be loved and like have people love them and stare at them and give them compliments. That's how they feel loved. It's just interesting. That was another big contrast between these characters. But I could ramble on and on about this book, but I won't. I do think you should read it. I gave it 4 stars, and I definitely want to read more of Kristen Hanna's books. Then lastly, I listened to Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This is her newest thriller release. It's sad because I was so excited. This is what I do. Like, I get so excited about new releases. I hype them up and like all this stuff, and then they sometimes don't live up to that hype, and that's what happened to this book. I was so excited. I love Alice Feeney, and I just hit the ground running with this one, jumped into it. And at first, I really did enjoy it. I thought the premise of it was very interesting. So right off the bat, you are following Grady, who is on the phone with his wife, and she's on the way home. And then she stops because she sees someone laying on the side of the road, and she's like, I need to help them. And then that's the last thing Grady hears. And then he goes to where her car is, and she is missing. And then he never sees his wife again. So it's now a year later, and he is going to this like remote writing cabin to help write. He's a writer, and he's like having some author's block and stuff. Like, he's just still struggling with the fact that his wife is missing and all that kind of stuff. So he decides to take a vacation to help his writing, and then he starts seeing his missing wife around the island, but he can like never catch up to her and like see her, and just weird things just start happening, and you kind of start learning about the history of the island, and you're also getting the wife's perspective of when before she had gone missing, where she's in therapy, and like you're basically just like seeing their sessions in a way, and just you start learning a lot of things, and it takes a turn. And I didn't like the ending. I just didn't. And I don't like when there's a trope that happens in this book that I can't tell you, but if you've read the book, you know. And I just hate when books do that. In this book, I just feel like it didn't make any sense at all, and it was annoying that it happened. And I was like, well, how was I supposed to know that? Like, it's weird. It's weird. And I didn't like what we learned about the island. I don't know. It's just very weird. So I gave it 3 stars. Those are all the books that I read in March and April. I hope that you guys got some book recommendations, or if you've read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts and opinions. I love talking to people about books we've read. It's just the most fun thing ever. So please comment down below if you've read any of them, or let me know what you're reading this month. Now we're in May. And go ahead and subscribe if you aren't already so you don't miss any videos from me, and I'll see you very, very soon in my next video.